Are you at all concerned about Brady's health?
I'm not concerned. I think that the one point that everyone really raised is the fact that Bruce Arians' offense is a vertical offense. They like to push the ball down the field with those big weapons that they have on the outside and Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. But, I also would contend, this is going to have to be a collaborative effort between Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, the head coach, because Tom Brady, for most of his career, has really eaten off, the passing game between the numbers. And when you look at Tampa Bay and what they have personnel wise, they have three tight ends that are some, pretty good weapons, have pretty good size in Rob Gronkowski, OJ Howard, and Cameron Brate. So I think if you want to utilize Tom Brady to the fullest and get the most out of him, you have to utilize that aspect of his game, the in between the numbers, his ability to process information pre-snap to post-snap. And I think when you look at it that way, if you're Tom Brady and Bruce Arians, that's going to be the best way to keep Tom Brady healthy, and I think he will be healthy.
Yeah, but I don't think that this team and this coaching staff is built right for Tom Brady's skill set at this point in his career. So, I am worried about his physical ability and health as it impacts his ability to throw the ball down the field, deliver the ball accurately. His on-target numbers weren't very good last season, and that's not all because the weapons around him were not perfect. And I think that the weapons down in Tampa right now are great, but they may not be great for Tom Brady. And this offense may not be perfect for Tom Brady. I know that they're going to bend and twist the offense to fit his skill level and his ability, but you can't change the fact that their best players, their two best offensive players, are Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Those are bigger guys who are accustomed to running deep routes down the field and allowing Jameis Winston to just throw it up and they can make plays. That's not what Tom Brady does. Tom Brady, as you mentioned, he's accustomed to working in the middle of the field with slot receivers and tight ends, little shifty guys who can get open in 5 to 10-yard routes, and he's going to find that little spot and drill the ball in there and make the right decision. That's entirely different than what these bigger guys are used to. So while all these guys together, you look at their Madden ratings and you look at all their skill level and you can say, well, this team is going to be great. They have to fit together. The football team is in some ways like a puzzle, and I'm not sure that all these puzzle pieces fit well together, especially given the fact that Tom Brady is 43, and I know that he takes care of his body, and I know that he works out, and I know that he's preserved himself as good as anyone could possibly do for a quarterback in this league. But he's still 43, and his arm is not what it once was. It's not what it was when he was throwing deep balls to Randy Moss. And he has a couple of receivers that are a lot closer to Randy Moss than they are to Wes Welker and than they are to Julian Edelman, the type of guys that he has been throwing the ball to in recent history. So I think it's a mistake to believe that Tom Brady's health is not going to be a concern, especially late in the season after he's taken more hits, because he's going to take more hits this year than he's used to. After he's taken more hits and he's thrown more passes late in the season, I think there's a chance to believe that his arm may not be what you need in the postseason.
So you brought up last year for Tom Brady. Do you want me to tell you who the guys that Tom Brady had at his disposal last year? You're talking about N'Keal Harry, wide receiver. Okay, we know
Right.
how hard it is for wide receivers to assimilate into the National Football League. Jacoby Myers, another rookie wide receiver that Tom Brady had to work with. Julian Edelman, 32 years old, injury plagued season last year. I mean, think about that. Those and Mohamed Sanu. Those were his primary weapons here. So while you sitting here going on a tangent about Tom Brady falling off, you almost sound like Max Kellerman just now, like Tom Brady falling off a cliff or
Uh-oh.
something like that. But listen, you're talking about a whole different set of skill people that the Tampa
Right.
Bay Buccaneers have. Yes, I know they like to press the ball down the field because the wide receivers are big. But what I am saying that there's no way in hell that Bruce Arians will just have his offense set the way it's been with Tom Brady and knowing his strengths as far as processing information and getting the ball out. That's not how they're going to run their offense down there in Tampa Bay. It's going to be collaborative, and Tom Brady, you best believe, is going to get the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think Arians and Byron Leftwich are smart enough to understand that they can't let Tom Brady run the same offense that they ran with Ben Roethlisberger, where he's sitting back there shaking off D linemen to make big plays, or that they ran last year with Jameis Winston, where he's throwing deep balls while getting hit in the face. I know they know better than that. But the problem is this team was built for a quarterback like that. And I don't think they're going to be bad. I don't think Tom Brady is going to be terrible. But I think it's foolish to believe that at 43, there's not going to be some deterioration. We watched the season last year. I understand you could point out that his weapons were not as good as he would want them to be, but he also wasn't as good as we expect Tom Brady. Anyone who watched those games saw that. I think honest Patriots fans and honest Patriots analysts would be able to, or just honest football analysts would be able to watch those games and say that Tom Brady was good, but he wasn't the great Tom Brady that we're accustomed to. And they would also recognize that Tom Brady has not been the deep ball thrower that I think that these guys, that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are perfect matches for. So I understand you say they're going to change the offense to make sure he gets the ball out of his hands quickly. That means he's going to be throwing to running backs and tight ends. And I don't know what you're going to do with those big outside receivers that you have there, because they are not, at no point in their careers have they been the guys that you put in a slot and they go shake somebody on a 5-yard option route. When you put them in the slot, it's because they're running a seam 30 yards down the field. And that's not what Tom Brady has been throwing, because if you run that 10 to 12 times a game, you're going to get hit good at least twice. And Tom Brady ain't about getting hit. Not that he ever was before, but if you watch last year, he threw a lot of balls away because things didn't clear up right away. He's not going to take those shots, and that's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. I'm not saying it's going to be a terrible experiment and they're going to be a bad team. I'm just saying let's not put them in the Super Bowl just yet.
You also know that personnel around you really helps to improve your game. So many years we've seen from Tom Brady, right? He's elevated everybody. Well, guess what? John Elway won Super Bowls when Terrell Davis came in the backfield, and then he won 2. And I could see a similar situation with Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay with these weapons he has at his disposal. That's going to help elevate his game because he's been doing it his whole career. So that's why I say it's going to be good all around for everybody within that organization.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.